Boy, oh boy, do we have some things to talk about in this Hot on These E Streets weekly wrap up. So without further ado, let's get into it. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha. It is Friday, so you know what that means. And if you don't know what that means, every Friday I do a Hot on These E Streets wrap up where I just talk about a few topics on social media that were really viral or things that were very interesting to me that happened on social media this week or that came across my feed. So before we get into it, before we get started, I had a goal before the end of November to reach 1,000 subscribers. We have reached that goal. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. If you are watching this video and you're liking the content and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's keep this train going. Let's keep going. Let's keep growing. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, and I'm really excited to continue to post content to expand on the topics that I want to talk about. So yeah, thank you for being here. Let's get into our first topic, which is the Sephora Squad 2025. So Sephora just released their roster, their lineup to the Sephora 2025 squad, and there has been a lot of interesting commentary on who was ultimately selected. Now, first and foremost, everyone in the Sephora squad for 2025 is gorgeous. I was looking and I was like, oh my goodness, these people are beautiful. They have really cast a wide net. I'm seeing a lot of diversity as far as age, as far as gender, as far as body types, even the type of content that they do. Like, yes, it's surrounding obviously beauty content, makeup, hair, etc. But I noticed that there is also a diversity in how they present their content. I think there's one model on here. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was happy for the girls and the gays and the guys, you know, everybody that was on there. But then I started seeing a lot of people sharing very interesting opinions, and it started off with Jessie Woo, whose content I genuinely love, but she brought up something that I didn't notice, and I thought that was very interesting, the fact that a lot of the people who are announced as part of the Sephora 2025 squad, a lot of them are well-established influencers and social media personalities who are already being represented by agencies. And so there is this growing idea and narrative that being an influencer or reaching a certain level of success within the influencer space, it's no longer organic. It's very much pay to play, and you have to be signed or a part of somebody's agency, or you have to be under some type of management in order to get certain brand deals or get certain collaborations and be in certain spaces. And it can be a little frustrating when you realize that being an influencer nowadays, the market is very oversaturated. So it is really hard to stand out. And unfortunately, this is not just in the influencer space, it's in any type of industry. It is not what you know. It is not necessarily how amazing your content is, but it is a lot of the time who you know and the connections you have with people. So there were just a lot of videos that I was seeing from people basically saying the same thing, like, you know, these creators are already established, or people sharing their disappointment over not being selected for the Sephora squad. And there were about 4 girls that I shared testimonials for back in, I think it was August or September, when the announcements went live and when the testimonials went live. There were a lot of creators who I really enjoy. The vast majority of them, at least everybody that I filled out testimonials for, the biggest creator was Kenya Broadnax. I love her content. She's so funny. If you are not following her, give that girl a follow. She's hilarious. She is probably the biggest creator though that I filled out a testimonial for. Everyone else was a smaller creator. When I talk about smaller creators, I'm talking about people who have less than 100,000 followers / subscribers, but maybe small or large varies across platforms. I don't know, but I'm specifically talking about across TikTok. If you have any less than 100,000 followers, I regard you as a smaller creator. So the people who I filled out testimonials for, with the exception of Kenya, they were smaller creators. So anyways, I've seen a lot of different perspectives being offered. Some people's perspectives, however, are getting dismissed because they themselves are influencers with large platforms, or they're in the beauty space and people are talking about, oh, they're haters, or, you know, people are dismissing their feedback, thoughts, and opinion as being haters. But because I am not in the beauty space, I wouldn't regard myself as exclusively a beauty influencer. Like, yes, I do post beauty content. I do post hair, skincare, makeup, makeup. I do post that type of content, but I wouldn't necessarily say I am exclusively a beauty makeup influencer or content creator. I didn't apply for the Sephora squad. So I feel, even though I be up in Sephora at a problematic frequency, I feel like I can share my opinion without being called or being dismissed as a hater. I'm just looking at it from a different perspective, and I'm looking at it from somebody who is in the fitness industry, where we kind of have the same but different issue when it comes to certain opportunities being given to people based on your platform, who you know, what you know. Part of the biggest issue when it comes to the Sephora squad and how people were selected, there is no real set criteria, at least that Sephora offers. You know, they say that your follower count doesn't matter, but I looked at the qualifications, what is required for somebody to apply, and they do explicitly say you have to apply by yourself. Your management or your agency cannot apply for you. It is a 15-minute process. Like, sit down and fill out the application yourself. So I absolutely believe that these individuals obviously filled out the application themselves. The issue is on the back end, there's no transparency as to how people were selected, what the criteria is. And I think it would be helpful maybe if there were certain tiers, right? Like if Sephora said, okay, we are taking X, Y, and Z amount of members from the Sephora squad that have less than 100,000 followers, less than 50,000 followers. This person is signed. We are taking X, Y, and Z amount of people who are part of agencies. You know, I don't necessarily think the process is broken. However, I did see some people saying that, who are on the Sephora squad now, that they've applied 2 times, they've applied 3 times. One woman said she was her mom's management, and her mom had applied 3 times. But for the most part, these are very much individual testimonies. There's no clear-cut, transparent criteria how people are selected. So I think in part that creates some of the confusion around who was selected, and well, not who was selected, but why they were selected. And so when people are unclear, they can take whatever rumors they want and run with it. And I don't think Sephora necessarily needs to address any of these rumors, but I do think that if they want to kind of quell the conversation about it being pay for play, then they do need to speak up and say something, or at least would be very helpful. Or maybe they go back to the drawing board next year and change their process. And if you're like, girl, what is even the Sephora squad? Basically, the Sephora squad is a community of content creators. They are beauty lovers and passionate creatives from all backgrounds and audience sizes. So that is what really Sephora gives us, or how they introduce and how they categorize the Sephora squad. And obviously there are perks to this program. As a Sephora squad member, you will enter a year-long paid partnership with Sephora featuring all kinds of exclusive rewards, unlike any other in the industry. So I imagine that falls under the umbrella of meet and greets, industry events, first drops, first looks. That's pretty awesome. It's a really good opportunity. If you are an influencer and this is your job and this is the lane that you are trying to create for yourself, and you're trying to become well-established, or you are already well established, this is a really good opportunity to get you in front of more people and to create a lot more opportunities for yourself. So I can absolutely understand that there are thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, dozens of thousands of people who apply every year. And unfortunately, you cannot take everybody. For as many people as I saw announcing that they were, you know, selected for the Sephora squad, there are a lot of people who were sharing their disappointment that they were not selected. And I shouldn't be surprised by it, but it never stops annoying me how callous and cruel people can be when somebody is expressing disappointment or just sadness about an opportunity that they missed out on. Now, I 110% firmly believe that rejection is often protection. However, I also believe that what is for you will never pass you. So maybe that Sephora squad opportunity wasn't for you for 2025, but it could be for you for 2026. So it's on the way. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, maybe it's not this year, maybe it's not next year, maybe it's the year after next. It's on the way, but people can still express their disappointment and sadness and frustration, and it doesn't necessarily have to be envy or jealousy, because I saw some people that were like, you announcing you did not make the Sephora squad is taking away attention from people who did make the Sephora squad, and let them share their good news. Like, why are you sharing bad news? And it's like, people want content creators and influencers to be transparent transparent. But then when they are transparent and when they're sharing aspects of their lives, the same people are like, okay, shut up, or not now, or hold it, or wait for it. And listen, even if they are jealous, even if they are envious of other people who made the squad and they didn't, and they're inquiring as to why or what he or she has that I don't, those are tangible emotions, and they're not necessarily negative emotions. I think we attach negativity to jealousy and envy, but they can be very productive emotions depending on how you use them and channel them. So I don't necessarily think envy or jealousy is a bad thing. I think we need to give people room to express their frustration, or express their disappointment, and people are like, oh, just move on. And I'm seeing these messages from people and I'm like, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. Like, it hasn't even been 24 hours. Allow these people to express and share their grief and their feelings. And earlier I mentioned that I am in the fitness industry. I'm a SoulCycle instructor. I've been teaching indoor cycling for 8 years. And within the fitness industry, I guess the biggest thing that would be kind of parallel or similar to Sephora Squad in the beauty makeup industry would be becoming a Lululemon ambassador. And that was one of my goals. When I started teaching indoor cycling, I knew I wanted to become a Lululemon ambassador. And basically becoming a Lululemon ambassador, you are a store ambassador, you are a representation of Lululemon, you get your photo taken and put up in the store, and you are a community leader. So they will sponsor you, you get a certain amount of money to be a Lululemon ambassador, and it is a year-long program. Some people's contracts last 2 years, other people's contracts are shorter or longer depending on the tier of ambassador that you are. But it is a really good program, and you are regarded as a leader in your community, and you partner with Lululemon to host different events. And I really enjoyed my time as a Lululemon ambassador. However, that didn't come for me until 6 years of being in the industry. And I watched people get that accolade. I watched people become Lululemon ambassadors before I did. And even though I firmly believe and I knew that my time was coming, I was eventually going to be selected as an ambassador and that my hard work was going to be rewarded, it really was challenging sometimes to, watch other people get that honor, become ambassadors. And it's not necessarily that you are not happy for them, but you are wondering, why not me? What didn't I do? And with the process, like becoming a Lululemon ambassador, you don't really fill out an application. You're kind of tapped by your local store and how much you interact with them. So it's really like a community building. It's really a team and relationship building effort. It is something that is not handed to you. There's no real formal application kind of process. They're vetting you, they're coming to take your classes, and it's a really great honor. I loved my time as a Lululemon ambassador. I got so many opportunities. I got to speak on a panel. I really enjoyed my time as a Lululemon ambassador, and I still have relationships and connections with people from that time. However, as before I became a Lululemon ambassador and I was going through the process and I was trying to build that relationship, and I saw people being tapped before me, and then of course COVID threw everything off, it was a little frustrating. And so I think we have to give people room and space and time to feel their feelings. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're haters or that they're jealous or that they're envious. And even if they are, so what? These are human emotions. And if you think about yourself in the context of your job, because I also think that the reason why a lot of people are being critical about the creators who are sharing they did not get selected as Sephora Squad members is because influencing is a women predominated space, and we are generally very dismissive as a patriarchal society of any field or industry that is dominated by women. So I think it's very easy for people to devalue the work of being an influencer and punch down on influencers. So because we minimize influencers, we minimize women and influencers and their contributions, it's very easy to be like, oh, you're mad about this silly little thing. But if you are a leader in your space, or you're trying to establish yourself as an influencer in the beauty or makeup or hair or whatever industry, the Sephora Squad, being a member of the Sephora Squad will open up opportunities for you. So you absolutely want that. And if you think about yourself in your job, Everybody wants to be recognized in their job. Everybody wants to be selected or promoted or given the opportunity to advance in their career, to get in front of more eyes, to get promoted, to, to continue to grow. And this is what that opportunity is for them. So we should allow them to feel that disappointment. And if it's pay to play, that really sucks. So maybe that's something that Sephora needs to be a little bit more transparent about. Like, okay, if you're going to say you're only taking content creators who have less than 50,000 followers, we're only taking 5 of those, but we're generally looking for influencers with bigger followings, 100,000 people plus, or people who are managed or signed by agencies. That's what we're looking for. I think that's fair of Sephora to say that. And I think it is fair for them to have that as a requirement, because while we are looking at it from the perspective of, oh, give these creators an opportunity, Sephora is a business. They're looking at people who's going to bring them more eyes, who's going to bring them more money. They're looking at those people's, the influencers on the squad. They're looking at their influence and how many people they are going to influence to drive revenue towards Sephora. So this is very much a business deal for Sephora. And so it's not wrong of them to want people who are already established that they may not necessarily have to help grow. And that's fair too. However, I understand that, just the same way I wanted to be a Lululemon ambassador, it would not have taken away anything from me as an instructor, as part of the fitness industry, and what I was doing within my community. And if you think about it from the same perspective as a Sephora squad, there are huge beauty and lifestyle influencers who have never been members of the Sephora squad. Jackie Aina, Monet McMichael, Alex Earl. These are huge, influential women who have never been on the Sephora squad. So it's not something you necessarily need to mark yourself, to establish yourself. Tony Bravo even, and I love Tony Bravo, but these are people, they are so well cemented in the beauty influencer space, and they didn't need the Sephora squad to get there. For everyone who didn't make the Sephora squad this year or this upcoming year, it is okay to be disappointed. Your time is coming. And even if it doesn't, that doesn't mean you are any less of a creator or an influencer. Keep doing you, and opportunities will find you. Period. I do also understand, however, that is increasingly becoming harder. And I know Kenya was talking about this, and even who was the content creator I was watching? Chioma Chats, Queen Chioma. She was talking about how it is really hard nowadays to stand out, that this market is so oversaturated. And it's really hard to stand out amongst so many influencers, amongst so many content creators. So that just means you got to work a little bit harder. And I know that kind of sucks right now, but at the same time, we shouldn't be waiting for, yes, it is normal and it is understandable to want to be recognized within your industry. However, not being recognized in that way should not feel like you are being diminished and the work you are doing doesn't mean anything. So remain encouraged, remain hopeful, and keep going. It is hard, but post the content. I know sometimes even I get, frustrated. I've been on social media for about 8 years now consecutively. And this is probably, I had a few partnerships and brand deals over COVID, but I really haven't since then. Things really haven't popped off for me, but I'm still making content because at the end of the day, even though I'm not bringing down paid partnerships left and right, I know that I am bringing value, and I know I'm creating content that matters and that's resonating with people. And if I'm going to be recognized for it, great. But not being recognized for it doesn't diminish what I'm doing, and it doesn't make me any less important or impactful in this space. So just remain encouraged and post the content. Moving on, this is a smaller thing. I was today years old. Actually, I found this out. I was talking to my husband about it 2 days ago. I was today-ish, this week-ish years old when I found out that 6 figures meant $100,000. I have been walking around thinking that 6 figures was the number after 6 zeros. So I'm thinking that being a millionaire is making 6 figures as opposed to $100,000 being somebody who is making 6 figures, money. And when I found that out, I was oh, that's it? Because people keep on hyping up 6 figures. And I'm but you can only be making $100,000 $100,000. And I don't want, let me rephrase that, because I know that sounds like very like snobbish, like hoity-toity, oh, only $100,000. And that is a lot of money. However, if you are living in a high cost of living city or area, like where I live is very high cost of living, $100,000 is not going to get you that far. So hearing people talk about, oh, I'm a high earner, and then these guys will throw out like, oh, I'm making six figures. It's like, well, does that six figures? Does it start with a 1, a 2, a 3? And then also, where are you living? Because there are levels to this, but I just thought it was funny. Like, I don't know, I cracked myself up. I don't even know how we started talking about that, but I was like, wait a minute, you mean six figures is not $1 million? And my husband looked at me and he was like, he's a CPA, so he's good with money and numbers and stuff. I'm not. But anyways, he looked at me like, ho, is you cool? But anyways, the third topic that I want to hit on, I guess is a second topic, because that was like a random aside. I only got really, the social media was weird this week. We just had a full moon, and honestly, I have been operating under the assumption that everybody's on crack. And literally this week was giving full moon crackish behavior. So it is also giving like, what is really going on? Like, social media has just been a weird space for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. And this video by the new trophy wife, it had been popping up on YouTube. My YouTube was like feeding it to me, and I've never watched this woman's content, the new trophy wife, so I was surprised by the fact that it even landed on my algorithm. But I think it was because everybody was talking about it. By like Wednesday, Thursday, it was everywhere. It was on my TikTok For You page. It was on YouTube, and I'm seeing people, the new trophy wife this, the new trophy wife that, the lessons you can learn from her, and I'm seeing all of this, and I'm like, what is going on? So finally yesterday, I watched the video, and it was like, oh my God, like, I'm not going to post it here. If you want to see it, this is her page. She goes by Isis. She now goes by Isis, but her page before was the new trophy wife. She was one of those hypergamy girls who was talking about how to land a high earner man, I guess a 6-figure man, and, you know, become a stay-at-home wife, a kept wife, a trophy wife. And listen, I don't post relationship content. That's not my lane. I met my husband my freshman year of college, but we didn't start dating until the year after I graduated from college. And then we got married when I was like 20. How old was I? Oh my goodness. We took our time. We dated for 3.5 years before we got engaged. Then we got married like almost 2 years after that. So yeah, we started dating when I was 22, 23, and then we got married when I was like 28, 29. So we really took our time. But anyways, the reason why I don't do relationship content is because I firmly believe that you don't know what's going on in anybody's relationship. Anybody can sit here and give you relationship advice. Meanwhile, you don't know what's going on in their home, their bedroom, what they have to do to keep their partner, what they are going through to stay with their partner. I would just never want anybody to look to me for any type of advice. And if things don't work out, then they come at me and say I gave them wrong advice. No. I'm not in the business of giving relationship advice. And because I am married and our marriage is comfortable, I'm cool. I don't need no advice. You know, if I need marriage advice or I need to work things out, I'm gonna go to a premarital counselor. I'm not gonna hop on the internet and take any advice from anybody. Therefore, I do not give relationship advice, and I don't really watch these channels. But because it was like everywhere, I was like, okay, let me go watch this girl's content. And granted, I do see a lot of that sprinkle Shera 7 content. She is hilarious to me. I don't really take her seriously, but a lot of girls are out here taking her advice seriously, and Shera 7 kind of spoke up about that because it came out. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, Isis came out and said that her daughter told her that her biological father, because she has 2 boys from a previous marriage or relationship, and then she got married to this guy, and then she has 2 kids with him, 2 girls. She just gave birth to another baby, so they have 3 biological children together. And her daughter, their oldest biological daughter, said that the father was doing things to her. And so she came and she shared that in her video, I Married a Monster, and it was like, oh my gosh, I was so like, oh my goodness, it was a lot. It was a lot. I'm so sorry to anyone who has ever experienced that. It's just horrible. It's really horrible. And I felt for her when she said that she, as a child, was also a victim of that. So she was very sensitive, and she was very sensitive and heightened to that happening around her. So she was very protective of her daughters, and she would have never thought that her husband would have been the one to do that. She shared this video, and people just attacked her. I'm genuinely surprised by the lack of empathy that people can express to others. And that's in part why I also don't give relationship advice, because if you are putting your relationship or your marriage on a pedestal and one thing goes wrong, people who don't like you, or they're envious of you, or they just like don't like your content, they will be waiting. They will be the first people waiting in the wings to jump out of the woodwork and be like, I told you so. And people are real perverse and sick about that, and they want so bad to beat you down. They're waiting for you to fail. There will be people who are hate watching your content with the express purpose of telling you how much they don't like you, or waiting for your downfall, and then they can share everything they dislike about you, and you're a clown, you're this, you're that, the third. And that's exactly what happened to this girl. Now, granted, as I was watching more of her content and people's response to it, I did see that she has said certain problematic things. You know, she was an acolyte of Shera 7, who many people feel is problematic. She was also somebody who believed in Kevin Samuel's doctrine and kind of spewed very, some of the videos that I came across from her, she has deleted all the videos of her channel. So a lot of what I've seen is reposts from people. But some of the advice she was giving, I didn't like it. I thought, I don't understand why people, in order for them to give girls advice or give young women advice, they have to be nasty about it. They have to be mean about it. They got to talk down to you. They got to call you crusty, dusty, busted, disgusted, all that other stuff. Like, why do you have to give people advice like that from a place of negativity? I don't like that. And that's the kind of lane she's stuck in. So I can understand why people, when you come out with that type of attitude and energy, it's going to rub people the wrong way, and people will be waiting for your downfall. So while I do not think it is appropriate for people to send hate her way, especially dealing with what she is dealing with, I do also understand when you rub somebody the wrong way, they're not necessarily going to be kind to you in their rebuke, reproach, or in your darkest moment. So you really have to be careful about what you share on the internet. And that's part of the reason why, I mean, my husband hates social media, period. But that's part of the reason why I'm very protective of what I share on these e-streets, because you know, you just have to be very protective of what you put out there, because not everything is for everybody. And I firmly believe not everything is for social media, you know, but given the content she was creating, it almost seems like people were like praying for her on her downfall. And now, you know, she has her husband has allegedly cut off the internet. He's taken away the cars. He has wiped clean the bank account. So she really has nothing. She's struggling, and she set up a GoFundMe, and everybody's like, wait a minute, you were over here calling us brokies and dusties and talking about how you were kept wife and and now all of a sudden you need our money. So her GoFundMe rubbed people the wrong way. And listen, you don't gotta donate to it. I see a lot of HoFundMes, because that's what I call them, really, HoFundMes. I see a lot of them, and I'm like, I'm not donating to that, but I'm certainly not gonna hop in the comments of the GoFundMe and tell them off and tell them everything I think about them. Like, for what? Like, if you don't want to donate to somebody's GoFundMe, keep it going. But anyways, it seemed very cut and dry. She said that she went and took her dog, you know, she went to the hospital, they got a kit and a test done, they reported it to the police. So it seemed like very cut and dry. However, since Wednesday, Thursday, her husband's niece has come out of the woodwork to dispute everything she's saying, say that she's portraying the situation as not what it is. It was her son that was actually, doing those things to her daughter, and the husband, her uncle, would never do anything like that. And how ISIS, or Paloma, she called out her government name. I was like, oh my God, girl, Paloma's a beautiful name though. I don't know why she wouldn't just go with Paloma. But again, maybe ISIS was, you know, a pseudonym for her, or an alias. She didn't want to put out her full government name like that, which makes sense. But yeah, the niece was coming out here to dispute everything she said. And now people are posting videos about how you could hear, you know, ISIS was doing lives, and you could hear the daughters in the background crying, and it's just a lot, you know, a lot is going on. They're saying ISIS has a case against her for child endangerment or child abandonment, basically something with her children. You know, she wasn't taking care of them the way that they should, and the state got involved. There's no arrest record for her husband, and if he did all of these things and they got the police involved, why isn't he arrested? So obviously it couldn't be her husband, or what she's saying isn't true, which is a good point. There are people who are criticizing her for sharing this story, putting it across social media for engagement. And right now it's at 2 million followers. So she's gonna be making a coin off of that, but also she is now a single mother of 5, and I don't, YouTube seems to be her primary income. If she's making money off of that in the GoFundMe, so what? If you don't like it, don't watch her videos, don't give her engagement, don't watch the video, don't comment. I don't donate to the GoFundMe, don't comment on her videos, don't send any traffic her way. But I don't see anything wrong with her getting money from the GoFundMe because, she's a single mom of 5. However, it's just putting something like that on the internet. Yes, it deals with minors. She's their mother, but minors don't have a say in this, and this is something that will follow if it's not true. Like, God forbid, I don't know what the truth is. I don't know. It's very convoluted. The niece was saying, like, this is the niece's video. Basically, this is the niece's video. This is not the whole thing. I'm just going to post about a minute of it, a minute and a half of what she is saying actually happened.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dee, and I am the niece of the trophy wife's husband. Now, I know you know who the trophy wife is because she's been going up and down my timeline for the last couple of days. Her name is Isis, or Paloma, which is her real name. This lady is completely insane. Let's just start from there. Background story. Her and my uncle got together really quick. From what I've been seeing and what I've been told, she thought that she was getting a come up with my uncle. But then when things didn't go her way and she pretty much seen that she could no longer hide the things that she was doing behind closed doors, she ended up trying to find a different route, which was to come on here and lie to you all and tell you that her daughter had been touched by her dad, which that is not the case. Her daughter had been touched by her son, and she didn't want anybody to know because she wanted to try to make it seem like my uncle was the bad guy because she wasn't getting what she wanted in the divorce.
So yeah, that's what she is saying. And the truth of it is anybody's guess at that point. I just really hope that the children are safe, the children are protected. And I hope it's not a lie. Like to misrepresent something like that for followers and money and gain is just so disturbing. And if a mother would do that to her child or her children, oh goodness, we live in like I said, full moon energy. Everything is crazy. Everything is weird. And I guess, people are saying, oh, the lesson we can learn, da 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 da. The biggest lesson for me, and the biggest lesson I hope everybody takes from this, is to stop listening to these sprinkle girls, this hypergamy kind of movement and content. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to date outside of your tax bracket. If you want to marry up, if you want to date up, I encourage it, but that is not the only quality you should be looking for in a man, in a partner. When you are looking just for money, you are going to miss a lot of other things. And I'm not saying only date down or, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying use your discernment and common sense. Somebody's income should not be the primary motivating factor for you to want to date them or not. And I really like that Shera 7 came out because a lot of people were blaming her and her content. And I really like that she came out and said, y'all are not going to wrap me into this, because are you listening to Shera 7 or are you listening to just the sound bites people are putting out there? And that's really true, because of the way I was introduced to Shera 7 Sprinkle was all of these like little sound bites of her on TikTok, 30 seconds. Now, a few years ago, my sister would send me her videos because my older sister, she watches Shera 7. She thinks she's hilarious. And I think she's the Kendra G, she also thinks Kendra G is hilarious. So she'll send me their content and I'll watch some of it. I don't have as much time anymore, so I don't watch, as much of their content. But Shera 7, she be talking for a long time. So if you're only watching her for the 30-second sound bites, you're missing a lot of content. And to her credit, she does talk about running background checks on people. And she also encourages single mothers not to date, especially when you have young children who are not old enough to talk yet and to communicate and let you know what's going on with them. If somebody's doing something to them, if somebody's hurting them, you should not be dating if you have young kids, and not just young daughters, because this happens, boys are taken advantage of too. So it doesn't matter boys or girls. If you have young children, don't date them. I was watching Lovely T's video about it, and she essentially said the same thing. She is another YouTuber and she has 2 boys. They're grown now, but she was like, after I got divorced, I really didn't date a lot when my boys were young because I just didn't want men around my children. If you are seeking partnership and you want partnership, you should have it. And nobody gets married to get divorced. You are marrying somebody and having children with them, most people anyways, with the intention of being a family unit. So when it doesn't work out and you are left a single mom, does that mean you shouldn't date forever and you should just be alone forever? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but you do have to be a lot more discerning about who you date. You know, Snowbay, that's what I call my husband, Snowbay, his parents, they didn't get married. They were very young when they had him. His dad was obviously around. They lived like 5-7 minutes away from each other. His parents lived like 5 to 7 minutes away from each other growing up his entire life. So his dad was always there. But his mom kind of shared the same thing, because I've talked to her about this before. I was like, what was dating like for you when he was young? And she did date. And it's funny, my father-in-law, the only man, there was only one guy he didn't like my mother-in-law dating when my husband was a little bit younger, like when he was like 10 or 11. And he didn't like that guy because that guy didn't like kids. So he was like, how are you dating someone? You know, he just didn't feel like comfortable. And my husband's mom, eventually, my mother-in-law eventually broke it off with this guy. But all of this to say, like, when you are dating as a single mom or single dad, you know, single parent period, you really do have to be more mindful and discerning about who is around your children. And so it's really hard though, right? Because looking at Isis, she looks very young, and I imagine it is very challenging. You know, she came when she started dating her husband, or maybe now ex-husband. I don't know. By the time I get off this video, edit it, and hit post, a divorce proceeding may have come down. She did respond to the niece's commentary this morning. I grabbed this video here.
I couldn't get on here fast enough when I heard people were trying to blame my son. I couldn't get on here fast enough. Couldn't get on here fast enough. I thought I heard someone who I've never met in my life coming on here trying to blame my son. Someone whom I've never met in my life trying to come on here and blame my son for the sick and disgusting things that my daughter's father was doing. This is not a game. This is not a game. How dare you? How dare you blame this on an innocent child? You talk about you got proof? You have proof? I've got proof right here. Right here. Show me your paperwork. Show me your paperwork. You talk about I am saying something different than when I was in court. Honey, you weren't even there. Seen you in my life. It's not very good. Oh my gosh. Y'all want to see my protective order? Y'all want to see my protective order right here? I'm going to cover my daughter's name. I'm going to cover my daughter's name. In the case of a vulnerable adult and a minor child, a relative, there is a preponderance of the evidence to believe that the respondent committed the following acts of abuse. Statutory abuse of a child. R word or a statutory S offense. Father has been coming into two-year-old and 4-year-old daughter's rooms and S-egging them. This is from the judge. There's the case number. It matches the records.
Last time I checked, there was still no arrest record for this man. I don't know if she's in the process of divorcing him, but before she got with him, she had 2 boys. And so I imagine, you know, she is very young. She looks no older than, I'm horrible at age. She looks to me, to my eye anyways, no older than 25, 30 at the very oldest. So she's still young enough to obviously A, have more children and want to have more children and find love and be married. I don't know, like one of my really good friends, her son now is 11 and she hasn't dated anyone since she broke up with her son's father. And she's like, again, I don't want to bring anybody around my son. While she does want to date, she's also very intentional about the fact that, hey, I don't want to bring anyone around my kid. So she's single. And does she necessarily want to be single? Not at this stage. However, she does, you know that there is always a risk. And so I've never had to date as a single mom. I don't know what I would do if I was in those shoes. So I don't want to judge anyone, but it's just a very convoluted and messy situation. But at the end of the day, I hope that those kids are taken care of and they're staying protected. And she is now a single mother of 5. So hopefully she's able to find employment to support herself, you know, still making money off her YouTube, but any other, she said she was making 6 figures, 6 figures before she met her husband. So 6 figures doesn't stretch as far with 5 children. Well, again, I don't know if it's a low 106 figures or we're talking like 6-7 figures, you know, because if it's a 6-7 figures, okay, you doing a lot better. But if it's like low 6 figures, and I know she is from the DMV, this area, it's a very high cost of living area. So girl, I don't know what she's gonna do, but hopefully she's staying safe wherever she is. But yeah, those were like 2 stories that were big on social media this week. Another one that was big, I already covered it in a separate video, the hoax about somebody threatening to jump Southern women. Nobody is doing that. Nobody is saying that. Like nobody's finna jump y'all. Like relax. The call is coming from inside the house. The real threat, what y'all should really be worried about, are your husbands, are your boyfriends, are your domestic partners. But that's neither here nor there. Also, I wanted to address a comment that, a frequent comment, because I got a lot of comments on that video, and the conversation, it's been like generally good for the most part, but there was one frequently reoccurring comment that was really starting to like give me the side eye a little bit. So I don't think people understand what it means to disengage and not necessarily give something your full attention. We are increasingly living in a society where people do not practice nuance, and it's very annoying to me. And it's probably annoying to me because I'm very much one of those like type A, words mean things people. I would do my research. So before I say anything on this app, on this channel, whatever, I've already vetted it. I've done the most research that I can do on it. So I'm not coming on here not knowing what I'm talking about. A lot of people are like, oh, Black women, we are resting. We're not giving this any of our energy. Stop paying attention to these white women, da 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 da. Like, stop giving them the attention that they're looking for. To me, this is a commentary page. I talk about things that are very interesting to me, okay? I'm a naturally curious person. I don't understand how more people aren't naturally curious about the things that are happening around them and wanting to learn and explore and build knowledge and, you know, educate themselves on things. I don't know. I don't connect with that. I don't understand it. And so if I see something that piques my interest, I'm going to research it. I'm going to talk about it. And that's not necessarily giving it all of my attention. It is bringing awareness to the issue. And that's what I was doing with my video, bringing awareness to the fact that there are people out here who are spreading this hoax, and to just be mindful if you notice that people are antagonizing you more, be it in a social media space or in real life, if people are antagonizing you under the grounds that I heard that people are talking about jumping Southern white women because of how they voted. This is something that I absolutely believe people need to be aware of, but I'm not giving those women energy and attention by talking about it. There is a marked difference. If I was giving those particular women energy and attention, what I would be doing is hopping into their comments and engaging with them. But what do? I block and I keep it moving. I don't engage with them. I've never understood getting in somebody's comments and arguing with them if you don't like something that they're posting. My philosophy is I'm only giving energy and attention to things that are worth my time and my energy. So if somebody is posting something that I don't like or I don't agree with, I'm not going to sit there and get in their comments and argue about it with them and go back and forth with them and drive up their engagement and put money in their pockets. That's what I'm not going to do, because A, I'm not here to change anybody's mind, but also B, I recognize that a lot of people nowadays, the only way they know how to gain any relevancy or build a following or get attention on social media is to rage bait, and I'm not going to give them that energy. I am instead going to talk about it on my platform, away from their space, and block them from my space and block myself from their space, so I'm not inclined to go back and forth with them. That's giving it energy. So I think people just need to understand that just because you are talking about something and bringing awareness about something to, you know, your platform, in this case, my audience, my community, doesn't mean I'm giving attention to that person or to that thing. Like, there are levels to this, if it makes sense. So I hope you are picking up what I am putting down. Okay, we see each other. Yes, we see each other. Awesome. Drop that in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe if you're liking what you're seeing and you want more. I cannot believe we are at the end of November. Time is flying. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And until next time, peace out.